Welcome to the Shoot It Straight podcast.
Welcome everybody to our show. It's been a few weeks since we've made one of these. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, but again, to the untrained, or they don't know.
Oh, they don't know. Yeah, it's only a 1 week break for them.
It's just technically this week we took off. The week that we're recording is our off week. It's holidays. I've been getting a couple messages from people that have caught up to older episodes. People kind of detach a little bit, which we encourage. And we were traveling. So Happy New Year, everybody, because this is going to be our January episode. Maybe this one will be the first one, maybe not, to be determined. But
yeah, see, I think my brain just functioned as like we're doing this today, and this will be like people will actually hear this like tomorrow. Sometimes that's how my brain works.
Well, I like that we were in the beginning. We kind of we were a few weeks out. I like being a little bit more current because like podcasts are more like radio. They kind of are. We talk about things sometimes in the present, in the season, and things like that. So sometimes talking about things and then not publishing till 3 or 4 weeks isn't always my favorite.
And I feel like the only reason you just said radio was because when we were driving back from Maryland, we were listening to XM radio.
Dead ass. I'm like,
this is what's in the truck is XM radio.
I'm in like a Y2K. It's funny. I also was just messaging. The time is so weird. And I think this time of year is so different than any other time of year. But I was just messaging I love this girl at the Tulsa Vintage Co. Shout out to her. She helped us with our outfits for the holiday party we went to. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think we talked about that on the podcast, but we were Sunny and Cher, and she crushed it. She helped us so much and was wonderful. And I'm going to a Ja Rule concert tomorrow night in Ashanti. And she was like, is it 90s? And I was like, I think like more like early 2000s. And she was like, oh, Y2K. So yeah, we're all just kind of in the simpler time. I think that's how it goes. I think when you grow up, you just live in the time that you were kind of like in your heyday as like a teenager or, in school, college. And that's just like your era forever.
Oh, I'm all about the 90s. I love the 90s.
I know you love the 90s. And maybe some people like, that more than others. But, like with like music and things like that, like nobody is like, 40 years old turning on pop radio and like loving what they're hearing. I don't know too many people that are like, only modern day times.
Yeah.
I feel like especially now. And I was just talking to a friend and we were talking about, I don't know, there's several memes about this, but it's like, if you're 32, 33, 35 years old and it's like we've been through like 10 world wars and the plague and like that we've been through like so many things and we're not even that old. Our millennials have lived through a lot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Time has just come up a lot today and like this week.
Well, I think it happens like around the New Year.
It does. It's like always a time of like reflection and I don't know too if it's kind of like time slows down a little bit this time of year. So we all have time to just like maybe reflect a little more, be with our thoughts. Yeah. Squats with his thoughts.
And then it's my birthday. So it's my reflection time.
It is I reflect on my birthday too. It feels different than this.
Yeah.
It feels different. So you're that's kind of interesting for you because yours falls on the same time frame. For me, it's like when fall comes and I feel like the change of the seasons shift. Mm-hmm. But for you, I can see where like that's kind of a cool thing where you can kind of like start fresh on the new year and it's your birthday. That's cool. Yeah.
I'm getting older, but talking to your brother over the holidays, he was telling me about what is he, like a Gen Z or something? He's 26, 27.
I consider him Gen Z.
Yeah. So he was telling me about Gen Alpha and all their lingo and like all this kind of stuff. And
I was going to say Alpha is the new, because he's not young. No,
he's not them. And so he was trying to tell me all about their lingo that I totally didn't understand. And I think people that are listening to this that are millennials and older, like, it's just like, I don't understand this. They're like no cap and bussin' and all this shit that makes zero sense. And I'd remind your brother that, I'll be 40 in a couple of years. So this is I'm far removed from this stuff.
Well, fuck. I mean, they don't. Gen Alpha. I didn't even know they had a name or what their name was. B, they don't even know how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
But
they don't have to.
These kids are. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not trying to offend anyone out there, but y'all need to learn how to socialize in real life and make eye contact and things like that.
That's right. But today we're doing Q&As though. This is our Q&A episode.
Q&A episode.
So Erika writes in the show notes. So if you guys want to skip ahead to the question you asked or the topic you want to hear about, you can do that, or you can listen to all of them, which is what I'll encourage you to do.
Yeah, these are my favorite show notes to do because they're usually like pretty straightforward. Like they're easy to keep organized. I'm usually pretty elaborate on the other episodes that are not Q&A. Meaning like I do every couple of minutes. If we shift topics, I will timestamp them. But for these, I just kind of keep them in their little question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. And so we typically do 4 questions. I think we're going to stick with that. We've been loving and gotten good feedback too on like the 20 to 25 minute episodes. So we're going to kind of keep going with that too. Obviously, we're not restricting ourselves on a time, but we're trying to stick to that generally speaking.
Yeah, we're in our house. We don't pay by the hour.
Yeah, we don't
rent space by the hour.
I'm not saying that. I just think like we're not gonna be like, oh, time's up, gotta stop the show. Like that's not where we're also not a radio show, and we don't have ads that we need to run and all the bullshit that goes along with that. But I mean, I guess I'll kick it off.
Because we're gonna go right into like my favorite one that I put up there.
This question is for you for sure.
Let me go ahead and just
you have to ask the question because I don't know what the question is.
So this isn't actually the question that was asked. This is like basically the root of the question that actually is asked all the time, if that makes sense.
All right, well, ask the question because that'll help people.
The question is basically just like, do I need to do golf specific exercises or a golf drill? All right, and this comes from when people ask me all the time when I post exercises on Instagram. And again, we've told you guys like the Q&A comes mainly from social media. But so it's always like, hey, do I do both sides of an exercise, right? Like, so like I'll post something that does look very like golf specific. Like you wouldn't see a normal person in the gym do some of these things, right? Like some of this like banded rotation, punch through type stuff. And people are always like, do I need to do both sides? And the answer is always yes, if it's in the gym. So that's where it comes. So I kind of evolved it into this actual question because like the root of the question is that person's actually asking is this like something that's just going to help my golf swing, or is this something that's also going to help my body too? And we need to make sure there's a difference.
Okay, so the question also, I'm going to ask it another way so we can get super crystal clear. Is just what's the difference between a golf drill and a golf specific exercise?
Right. Okay. So, and hopefully I don't confuse anybody out there or confuse myself in the explanations of this, but basically the way we would look at it is you would do something in the gym if it will enhance your athletic capabilities, enhance your body, right? If it's only going to enhance your swing, it should be done on the range or wherever you're practicing with a golf club. That makes sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So by just adding in an element, say like, just taking the drill that your coach gives you, right? Like my coach gives me a drill. Here's what I do with the golf club. Now, finding some fancy way to turn that into an exercise is not exactly what you're looking for because it's a very golf-specific swing drill. With me so far? Because when we're enhancing our body, right, we have to overload our system somehow. We have to get this external force. We have to get some type of resistance that we're getting to get our body to respond and the stimulus that we want to make it better. Right? So if you are just going to take this drill that your coach gives you, use a band, you're probably going to take away from what that drill was doing initially, and you're probably not going to do it as good with this band as you would with the golf club, nor are you probably giving yourself enough stimulus from that band or whatever to make your body like actually adapt and change to it. So you end up just kind of in no man's land here in the middle where you're not really doing a great swing drill. You're not necessarily doing anything that's going to make your body better. So that's where, a lot of these people, they start doing all these things in the gym that mimic a drill, but we should really just focus on things that are actually going to make our body better in the gym. So like if it's an exercise that's going to make you more powerful, if it's going to increase your rotation, just make you more mobile and be able to turn better, do that with both directions. Do all those on their individual sides. A golf coach is not out there, and I've had several at this point in my life because we've moved around a lot, not because I just change them all the time. It's because we moved. But they don't tell you to swing left-handed, right? The drill is always the golf drill on one side. The exercise should be done on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a really good explanation. I think, can I add like another way of just explaining it to
yeah, I would appreciate that.
Or maybe another way of hearing it. I think you can really even simplify it more and just think about what the goal is to define whether it's a drill or an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a drill of any kind in any sport is to get you to improve at a specific skill.
Right.
I would vote that's the definition. I'm not a sports coach, but like that's pretty much what drilling is in sports. Maybe you're doing like even in tennis, it's just like you're repeating one thing. Maybe you're doing it overly extreme, right? Because you have a certain tendency maybe to hit to the right all the time, so you really want to exaggerate to the left. The goal is not to play your best tennis; it's to literally exaggerate, whatever. But the skill is, working on your swing pattern.
Right.
Sure, golf is the same way. Like all sport, a lot of sports are very related. So it's just more about the goal. The goal of a drill is to perfect a skill. And you can look at certain exercises as skills too, but really exercises it's to get like you've been saying, an improvement more on your body. And typically we're trying to become like balanced on both sides, and all of those things. We don't want to neglect one side of the body versus the other.
Right.
Is that like, that's just another way maybe of thinking about it for people that are like out there maybe getting a little bit confused. Yeah. I think that you did a good job of explaining it though too.
And I think you said the word that I probably didn't say that I should have, right? It's skill. Like, right? Like, yeah. If your coach is giving you a drill with the golf club, it's developed the skill, right? Yeah. Like my you have exactly what my issue was. My issue was that I sliced the ball. So what is the drill? The drill is to hook the ball.
Literally.
Right? Like that's what he was trying to get. My coach was like, here, I want you to hit these like nasty hooks.
Yeah, exactly.
To get you to straighten that out, right? Like that's the drill. So it
is the same as tennis.
Yeah. Now, if you are lacking like hip mobility, right? Like we can do that in the gym, and you do that on both sides. Like you don't just do it on your swing side. Like it's hips. We use our hips on both sides, no matter left or right-handed. But
it's so important to do both sides, and here's why. Like look at like my dad just had a knee replacement, and his trainer his PT whatever sounded like pretty decent. Actually, like hearing him talk about it and hearing him articulate like. Don't limp too much. Don't overcompensate on the other leg now. Because it is so important that even if you are stronger on one side, it doesn't mean you don't work out that other side. Like the body doesn't work in silos in that way. Mm-hmm. It will weirdly overcompensate if we don't perform on both sides.
Right.
And one side will always be better or less mobile or whatever, or different than the other side. But that's why we do both sides.
Right.
Because you want to keep things as equal as possible.
Yeah, I mean, golfers are always going to be, and other sports too. But like, you're going to be imbalanced. Like, you take way more. You're not going to go out there and swing left-handed as many times as you do right-handed to overcompensate for it, right? I mean, when you do speed training with like overspeed clubs, a lot of them do have you do opposite side swings. But that's for like a totally different reason. It's to help you decelerate, which is something you do without even realizing it in your golf swing, right? Because we don't just pitch our club down the fairway after we swing, right? We actually decelerate it and pull it behind us in a follow through in our backs in our follow through. So we can do that when we're doing overspeed training, but we don't just do one side in the gym.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the question. It's always like if I post it, and just to give you guys a little insight, I usually post the side that I do the best on when I put it on Instagram. Like, yeah, I have a dominant side. It looks better if I do it to this side because I'm trying to show people like the perfect, the best example I can. So I show like my best side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tend to, like if I show like multiple things in a row and I'm doing it all on one side, people tend to think, oh, he must be a right-handed golfer because he's doing all this on one side.
Oh, interesting.
Like, no, it's either, it could be like where the camera's placed. It could be like where the lighting is good. Like there's I'm just doing it for the video. Like if that's in the workout, it's on both sides.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it, y'all. That's just in general life advice.
Yeah.
General life
Do
advice.
both sides.
All right, cool. Second one. Oh. Cross training for golf.
Yeah. I think this can go a few different ways. So why don't you kick us off here?
Well, what's the question? Is the question? Should we be cross training for golf?
There we go. That's the question.
Should we be cross training for golf? Okay, I like this question. I'm going to take it in the direction of we kind of chatted about this before we got on air, but my short answer is yes. This to me, I think of cross training in the way of periodization throughout the year. So I think, again, I'm really starting to really get into defining terms also. So like cross training for me means training in different periods throughout the year or different seasons. That's how I define cross training. Some people, I think, define cross training as like, well, I'm a runner, so I'm going to go bike. Like this, just doing something else besides the sport that they're in. To me, that's like lackluster at best. It's just an excuse to do something else besides maybe doing too much of the same thing. And I'm biased to that opinion because I used to do those types of training too. And there's certainly value in doing different modalities in general, but for the purposes of cross training for golf, I think this is very relevant to the conversation we had last episode or 2 episodes ago about off season and like just how you're training differently maybe in the off season versus in season. And maybe it's not the exact same thing, but if it's winter, for example, it might be a really good time to crush and go really heavy or super high volume, or maybe you do take up like a different sport. Maybe you are playing your indoor tennis more all of a sudden, or like you're working on your jujitsu because it's just indoor. Like seriously, like this is where it's like, you know, back in my endurance days, I would do more like indoor HIIT training classes. I started to ramp that stuff up because maybe I wasn't outside in the cold as much. This is where you're just kind of like, because if I'm looking at it from a macro scale of I know I'm going to be training year round because I am, what we should absolutely be doing like different things for different seasons. And I think for golf, there's definitely, you can get into the more like specificity for golf, but like, fuck, this is where like maybe you're swimming indoors a little bit during the winter and like trying to get your endurance up. Like maybe this is where you're like looking at the goals that you have for yourself. Like we just had a member join and she wanted to be able to have a little bit more endurance for her game, like to be able to play more throughout the week and like not just maybe shoot 6 or 9 holes, but be able to walk 18 a couple times a week. So yeah, maybe like that person is wanting to level up their, what am I trying to say? Their baseline endurance and just get better. So like, this is where I think it's a good opportunity to pick a few goals, 1 or 2, and focus on them like out of your regular season. That's how I define it. And that's where I would say like the answer is yes. If it's defined as, well, I'm just going to do CrossFit classes because it's different. I'm like, that's kind of like counterproductive to golf. Right. Like if we got into like all the specific different modalities, we could kind of go through a list, which we're not going to sit here and do. But that's where I would say like make it specific to what you're trying to work on, and try to go in that direction.
Right.
Yeah. What's your hot take?
Oh, I love it. I mean, so Owen, one of our juniors I've been working with for one of the Wednesdays, I guess I'm going to have to quit calling him a junior because I've been working with him for a while. He's going to...
I know. Is he like a young adult now? Is he 18?
I think he's he's in high school now, but I mean, I was working with him before he was in high school. But anyways, he's playing like varsity basketball right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. You know, it's because he's developing skills that, I mean, golf is like his game. Like, I don't know. I've never watched him play basketball, so I shouldn't say that, but it'd be hard to imagine he's better at basketball than he is at golf because he's really freaking good at golf. But so that's definitely something I love to see juniors do, like get out there and play more sports, because you just develop so many more skills too, right? Like, I mean, ball handling, shooting, dribbling, running, sprinting, agility, all that great stuff that he's getting, and just the being a part of a team is cool.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's a whole different can of worms.
So but just the skills of playing basketball is awesome. Yeah. And it helps. It'll help him play golf too, without even it's nothing like the game of golf. It's just because he's becoming a better athlete, right? Like that's again kind of goes back to that question 1. Like anything that's gonna make you a better athlete will also make you a better golfer too. Now adults, we really don't have that, right? Like I'm not gonna go join like the rec basketball league, although some guys do. That's just not what I'm going to go do. So yeah, I mean, trying to find out like new things to do. Like I'm going to take up boxing this year. Like I already ordered some gloves. We've done boxing before. I really enjoyed it. That'll be kind of like my cross training, right? It's going to be great for golf as long as I don't break my wrist hitting the bag, which knock on wood, I might end up doing, but, so that'll carry over to golf. There's a lot of rotation, power, conditioning, all that fun stuff. So I definitely think mixing in something like that is great if you have the time and things. Now in our program, I do put in a lot of stuff, right? Like there's a lot of like jumping laterally. There's ball slams. There's different types of lunges that we're putting in, more rotation. So like, people are getting exposed to a lot of stuff just doing our programming.
Yes.
But yeah, if they want to, do something extra, like, do another sport, I highly encourage that. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think that was a really good way to answer that, actually, with the sports. But yeah, and again, our programs do a really good job of doing a lot of variety in general too. And I think I encourage people, when you're doing your workouts, like if you're a nerd like me, but it's like, think about how things do carry over in your day-to-day life. Once you start training enough, you can really start to be like, man, this makes this so much easier. I can't think of an example like off the top of my head, but it happens to me all the time. I'm just like getting up, like we just got like my dad's truck or whatever we just bought. It's so high up, and I'm like, man, I can like lift my leg up and step up here like nobody's business. And maybe when I'm 90, it'll be a little bit different, but I'm like, fuck, I want to be able to do that for a really long time. There's no reason that I can't pick my body up and lift myself up into a truck. Yeah. I should be able to do that with my body weight. Yeah. So it's like, cool. I'm glad I really do those weighted step ups. Like, I'm really glad that I have, like there's just so much, this goes on and on and on and on and on. We were talking about being able to carry like multiple gallons of milk. Like, those are things that, I know that these things sound, maybe we take them for granted, but like there are so many things in day-to-day life that they're just not hard, because if you have a good, well-rounded training program, you'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, and just like overall coordination, right? Like eye-hand coordination, stepping up and down is part of it. And like if you're playing another sport, I mean, one of my first like golf coaches, because my swing was ugly, but I still like hit the ball really far, and I still like played pretty well. Like I was single-digit handicapper without any kind of like lessons. And he was like, man, he's like, if you didn't have such good eye-hand coordination, I don't even think you'd hit the golf ball. Right. So like. And I developed that through like playing other sports, like not playing golf. Right. So just think about like if you are a good golfer and you do play more sports and you develop more skills, it only is going to make you better.
Yes. What's next?
Quick fix for injuries.
No such thing.
I wish there was something.
Well, I think we should talk about your injury.
Oh, I think it's important. You're going to rat me out to our...
No, I'm not ratting you out. I think it's important to talk about.
It is.
In the spirit of being authentic, this is also, you've had a chronic elbow thing since I've known you.
From powerlifting.
It started from powerlifting, which I believe that's actually to be true, because you had terrible shoulder mobility. Mm-hmm. Your shoulder mobility is not the best, but it's a lot better. Mm-hmm. And you're also a guy versus me who's just a girl.
A nimble like, little creature.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like I sit here and work on it, but like, I don't know, I have pretty good mobility. You didn't, and then and then you did heavy squats. So I'm imagining that the added pressure of whatever was happening with your mobility in your shoulder went straight to your elbow, taking on all that additional.
Yeah, with hundreds of pounds on my back. Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah, and what was funny, remember I got like I quit pressing for a little while because I thought it was like an elbow injury. It comes from pressing something or rowing or some upper body exercise, and it was the back squats.
The same reason we think like, oh, my knees hurt because I'm squatting, and it's like, probably not. Yeah. Like, it's the same shit, but this was a long time ago, and then we've kind of unpacked it since then.
I've learned since then how it all works, but that was the problem. Yeah, because lack of shoulder mobility was killing my shoulder or killing my elbow with a low bar. Then I had to then I modified my squat for CrossFit and so on and so forth. But so my left elbow, which if you're a golfer, is typically not where a right-handed golfer would actually get golfer's elbow. They would actually more likely get it like on the inside of their right elbow. So it's not golfer's elbow what I have. Basically, can they see me on camera right here if I did that? If you guys are watching. So, can you see what's happening here? So my elbow hyperextends. Right? That's what we call that. It goes past zero. It goes pretty far back. So think about what happens when you go to the top of the backswing, and I don't know exactly if it happens at the top of my backswing when I transition into the downswing, or if it happens like after impact when I fully like release my arm and my elbow. But it basically just kind of cracks, right? Like it right here in my elbow, and it always has, and it's always kind of hurt. But recently I went out and I wanted to do a video for one of our partners for the ripstick. I wasn't very warmed up. I know better than this, but I also think I'm invincible sometimes. So I went out in our backyard and I just started cranking away on the ripstick, the weighted club. And there's nothing wrong with the ripstick. There's nothing wrong with doing overspeed training. You just got to warm up and lead into it. And I wasn't. And I just started cranking away on it to make a video.
Yeah. You talked about that earlier. Just like the reps of doing things for video.
Yeah.
Sometimes it adds up.
Yeah. So when you do things just for video, like, you don't, sometimes you like use lighter weights and sometimes you want to show heavier weights. And like, if I'm swinging this club that's meant to be swung fast, I'm going to swing it fast. And I went out there and just cranked away on it and hurt my elbow. But that's not where it really went wrong. That was on like a Sunday we made that video. And then on Friday, I went to one of my clients or one of our athletes here lives in Tulsa. And he opened up his own indoor golf facility in Bixby called Scratch. So if you guys are local, go check it out. Awesome. We did a long drive contest when I was there. And of course, couldn't let myself lose, which I didn't. I did win that particular day that I was there. But I wasn't hitting. My club head speed was nowhere near where it normally is. And after doing so many reps, with my driver, trying to beat people, I've been in pain for a month now.
Yep.
And I've had to go to physical therapy. Basically, and it feels a lot better now after going to physical therapy. So people ask about quick fixes for injury. The quickest way you're going to get a fix for an injury is you go see a physical therapist straight up and get them working on you. That's going to be your quickest fix.
And downtime.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think when you have if it's an acute injury, if it's chronic, it's a little different, which yours is semi-chronic, but it was acutely reignited.
This is more than I've ever done.
Yeah, I know you've been in pain because you haven't been golfing, which means you've been resting it. But you've been resting it. That's what you have to do. And I think I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, actually not related, but they were sick, and she was like, "Man, it's been lingering for weeks, but I worked out yesterday," and I was like, I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, I'm like, bitch, sit down. It's not helping. Your shit's lingering because you're literally not letting yourself get better. I mean, this isn't professional medical advice, but it's real life. I was like, I bet if you just knocked yourself out and chilled for 3 days, which sucks. That always feels, it sucks, but it's your shit will get better. Don't push yourself. Right. Same thing with injuries. It's if the thing that, that you're doing hurts, you probably just chill out for a second and let your body at least let the inflammation come down and recover a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, number 2/1.0, whatever, 1A, definitely go see the PT.
Right.
Because they're going to be able to diagnose you pretty quickly with what did he assess you? You spent, an hour with him after he adjusted you and did some soft tissue work, I'm sure. But
yeah,
in the beginning, they're looking at how you're moving immediately. And then you can immediately be like, cool, what do I need to strengthen to correct it?
Right.
It's 99 times out of 100. That's what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is the quick fix. And also but then part two is there is no quick fix.
Yeah,
there's nothing's gonna be magic. And I think we all want to get better fast. But if you do the things like resting and doing your mobility and your whatever your PT tells you to do, the few weeks of that is way better than things just coming back over and over and over again for years.
Right.
That's the part where that's not worth it. That ends up taking a lot longer.
Yep. And I think, definitely if you look at, trying to prevent the injuries too, it's you always need to make sure your technique is right.
Yeah.
And you're properly warmed up and you're addressing your mobility issues. I think obviously what started this, but it wasn't as bad as until I really went and did the long drive thing on Friday. It's I pissed it off. It was only a few swings with that weighted club, and it was okay. Wasn't, and then when I really went and started swinging away to outdrive people, I probably changed up my technique, to adapt to compensate for this injury that was going on, and just ended up making it worse because I was threw my technique out the window and I just started gripping and ripping it.
Competition. That's it. That's always when people. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the point of competition. You're pushing your body more than it can than it would go in a training session.
Yep.
Always.
And I did that. So.
Well, you did the competition, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
Final question, nutrition related, kind of.
All right.
Sure.
So, how much of a calorie surplus do I need to be in to build muscle?
Okay, so this one got a lot of traction. We answered this question kind of in a Q&A in December. Different. I think it was asked a little bit differently. This question comes up a lot though, so I'm glad that it's come up again because I encourage people to go back and listen to that episode. I think it was one of our best episodes ever, actually, especially that particular question. I think I unpacked it for like 15 minutes. We talked about like the phasing of macros. It was so good. But let's talk about this. For one, okay. To gain muscle, we do need to be eating some food, right? The specific type of food that's important that we need to be eating, that was protein. And I say that because you don't necessarily have to be in a surplus per se. This is for the person who maybe has never tracked their food, who maybe is new to training, who maybe hasn't tracked in a while or hasn't trained in a while. Maybe they've taken a few months, years off, whatever. If we're simply just changing our macro profile, meaning like we're shifting into eating more protein in general, maybe our calories are the same, but more calories go towards protein, you absolutely can change your body composition by doing just that. Full stop. And this is why I always encourage people to start tracking their macros when they're learning about their food intake, because a lot of people undereat protein because it's kind of hard to get when they're eating out, or, you know, people get full off of it, or maybe they have to put more work into prepping it. It's a lot, you know, no, I'm not going to say it's a lot harder because it's really not, but it is easier to grab a bag of chips or a packaged good of some kind, crackers, whatever, than it is to like maybe throw some chicken on or what have you, right? But protein is how you actually build muscle. That's what, I mean, you have to eat it. Our body doesn't make it. It's essential, right? We have to eat protein. That's amino acids. They get consumed and they make up our muscle. That's it. So you can't just, even if you're strength training like a total badass and you're not eating enough protein, you will struggle to build muscle. So that's like kind of step one that I encourage people to look at first before like obsessing over like gains. But yeah, for the more like advanced athlete, maybe you're bigger too, right? You're starting to talk about like bigger bodied people that have already been training for a while. You know, I would consider myself in that class too of like women. I'm not talking necessarily you have to be 250 pounds. I'm just saying like if you've been training for a while and eating your protein and doing the things, you can start to add muscle and add size with a 10% surplus. It doesn't have to be a lot. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, you can add on 200, 250 and start to really see gains happen. The important thing to note though is that we're making sure we're sending our body the muscle building signal, and that comes from strength training. Also full stop, right? So same thing as what I said before, only as it relates to training. You can be eating in a 250 calorie surplus, but you don't just put on muscle by eating in a surplus. Like that doesn't, that you have to put in work too, right? So if you're just adding calories and your body's just going to be like, cool, I'm going to put on some body fat. But you can mitigate the body fat that you gain by strength training. And that is important. And you do need to be doing progressive overload. You cannot be doing the same weights for 20 weeks. Your body needs to be getting the signal, hey, this is a muscle building stimulus. I need to adapt and change. That's why like people that mail it in on their workouts and they're just checking off the boxes and they're wondering why they're not getting anywhere, they didn't hit a stimulus that was required for their body to adapt or change. So it's not going to.
Right.
Full stop.
And I think one thing people have to be careful, myself included, is that if you live in a climate like ours, like where we just started becoming winter, like, you know, a month ago, if you were much more active and then you're like, okay, I'm going to start bulking, and you add the 10% on, but you were like walking the golf course, you were doing more activities and things like that, you add that 10% on, but then all of a sudden you're indoors and like not moving around as much. What's the acronym? Your NEAT, your
non-exercise activity.
There we go. Thank you on that one. So if that comes down because you're less active, but then you added that 10%, but now you're like saying, just to make it easy for math, like now you're doing 10% less, and now you've like kind of added much more calories than you need, and you're going to be in a really big surplus, and then you're going to put on body fat, and you're probably going to feel like sluggish and tired because you're consuming way too many calories than you need to be in right? Would you say that's
I think statement? I think that's totally accurate. But that's also why I force every client to be in maintenance. People skip. They always want to go to their bulk or their cut immediately and they skip the maintenance. Like, you got to do the maintenance.
Yeah.
Because again, you could have some really great gains or changes in your body by just doing that. Same thing even with fat loss. Sometimes, again, if I had a client that I've been coaching her for 2 years, and last check-in, which was right before the holidays, she was like, I've been eating like all these sweets and craving sweets, and I've been I haven't really been tracking, and I've been traveling on the road, so her protein was really low for a couple weeks naturally, because she just kind of knew she was gonna check out a little bit. We agreed that was a good plan for her to just chill, eat the things, have fun. But after a couple weeks, she was like, I'm so hungry. And I'm like, yeah, you haven't eaten a lot of protein. That's it, period. And there's no emotion around it, or this. She's like, it's the seasons, it's the darkness, it's the stress. And I'm like, it's because you're eating like probably 50 grams of protein if you were tracking. And she was like, light bulb went off. I've been coaching her for 2 years, and she's smart, and she's. But I'm like, sometimes we just need to like hear that. But it's like, well, yeah, so you're going to munch on the extra things and feel like shit and have cravings and be hungry because you're not eating your protein like you normally are. And protein's super satiating.
Yep.
And our body like wants it. That's why it's so wonderful. And so we naturally can stay leaner because we eat enough protein and we don't like snack on the other stuff. So again, the maintenance thing is so important because our maintenance does change throughout the year. And so when people are like, well, I want to just jump right into this cut, I'm like, well, is your cut, how do you know, are you cutting at 1,700 calories? Are we able to cut at 2,100? Because where's your maintenance at? It is so important to know that first versus just being like, well, I'm just going to cut a bunch of calories out. Like, no, same thing with gaining and trying to put on size. Like, find out where you're at first before you just jump into some random number, even that like a computer spits out. Like, there's no better way than knowing where you're at than just tracking your food for a couple of weeks truly and seeing like how things feel. Are you feeling sluggish and bloated? Is it too much? Are you how much are you moving now? Change of jobs, change of seasons, change of like, there's so many things when we move. When we lived in DC versus here, like, do we walk more? Like, all these things, like, it's constantly changing. Yep. And how much we are walking and moving totally impacts that a lot.
Yep. Oh, and one thing. So some of you guys know that I was in the restaurant business for a long time. And just so you know, if you go out to eat at a restaurant, you can't ask for a grilled piece of chicken. They will make it for you. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
They don't care. They'll do it. They're going to charge you for it. It's a business. They don't care.
They don't.
You're going to tip the server for it. It's a little button on their screen. They all have it.
Yep.
It's no big deal.
You can ask for things without butter. You can ask for things dry.
Yeah.
Just know that, again, like things like chicken breast still taste better when we eat out because they are typically, there's a little extra little oil.
A little love on them. But yeah, we've gone out to sushi and I've ordered a chicken breast. Like,
yeah, you're like, I need to get my protein in. And like, this is like a little higher, and a sushi I think can be a great choice, but it's also like just a little heavier in fat and carb. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes you just need to get your protein in.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's no big deal.
It is no big deal.
And they only charge you a few bucks for it typically.
I think
depends on where you go, but
it's worth it. It's nice to have someone make your protein for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good question. It's a common question. Hopefully that's helpful. If you want like the full Monty on that question too, check out our last month's Q&A. But that wraps us up for our first episode, or maybe second of 2024.
To be determined. But yeah, that'll do it for today.
Okay.
All right.
Squat, are we signing off?
Do we sign off, buddy? Make sure you give them all of our information. Where can they find you?
He's nervous. He's new.
He's new.
He's staring right at me like, shoot, Mom, I don't know what to say.
But yeah, check us out on YouTube.
CodyWescottGolf.com/links is where you can find everything. Our programs, our free downloads, our free trials. We've got our YouTube channels on there. All the ways that you can find us on the Instagrams and the socials, our website, our programs, all of it. Hit us up.
Free trials, all the stuff. Free workouts.
Well, everybody have a good start to January. Say happy birthday to Cody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.